All right. This is the Dunster, and this is a video about the spiritual effects of marijuana, weed, the devil's lettuce, whatever wacky term you may use. Just for the purposes of this video, if I say anything about like smoking, getting high, whatever, I'm speaking about specifically marijuana within this video. So yeah, a little congested, jeez. So I kind of want to go into like the background that I have with this, and yeah, I'll go from there. So I probably smoked for 5 years. I'm not too great at the math right now. Beginning of 2018, my junior year of high school, into about 6.5 months ago. And I really wish that I did some notes back then on how I felt it was affecting me and what it was giving me, but I don't have that. So this is all looking back on it and what I think the experience was and how I can see the difference now. Getting some water. So for a while I didn't realize, but I was using the weed to really escape the things that I was going through mentally and physically. Personally, I have issues with my joints, and it would help me with that, but that wasn't the main reason why I actually would smoke. It would help with that and really just escaping the thoughts that would come to mind. And then eventually it wasn't an escape anymore. It wouldn't let me escape it. I would smoke, I'd get really anxious and scared, and yeah, just chaotic thoughts. And this is something that I said in my last video, but yeah, nonetheless, it really helped me in the times it helped me, and then the times that it didn't, it was very destructive. Which is, I don't know, an experience I had. Can't say that I wasn't supposed to experience it. It's too late to say that now. One thing I notice that it does for you is it takes you away from the ego, but not entirely. Like it's, sorry. It puts you between the ego and something that's external, because you're still aware of all the problems you may be facing, but geez, I'm really congested. 1 second. All right. May or may not have lost my train of thought, but it takes you away from the things that you are struggling with, if you are struggling, and takes you away from the good things that you're dealing with if you're on takes you away from the good things if you're experiencing good things. There you go. It's it's not necessarily something that helps you focus on the past or the future, but I feel like it puts you on a different timeline in general. And this is a big point of sort of the video, is it sort of takes you away from what you're supposed to experience. For me, since I was relying on it so heavily, it really pulled me away from things that I should have accomplished way sooner. And personally, I can attribute that to actually smoking. For some people, it's not the same thing. But the thing that it does is it puts you at a state of comfortability with whatever you're going through. Obviously, this can be good or bad. I don't know. We're not always supposed to be comfortable with whatever situation we're going through. You know, we are supposed to change and experience many things through this life, and it's sort of a trap where you recognize the comfortability that it gives you, and then you kind of forget about being sober. Yeah. It's a very interesting thing. People say that it's supposed to help with inflammation and it's supposed to be healthy, but I feel like it's a bit overplayed. Like, people with no problems at all smoke weed and they say, oh, but it's healthy, and it's like, yeah, but your lungs are affected. You know, you just kind of ruined your lungs. And you ruined your lungs, you were healthy, and your excuse is that it's fine, it's not damaging to me. But go run a mile, you know? You won't be able to breathe. I really wish that I had given myself the chance to get sober sooner. It was like a couple weeks here, maybe a month there. But more often than not, throughout the 5 years that I was smoking, I probably only gave myself 5 months of actually being a sober person, and that's total. Like, it was an all day, every day sort of thing, because I wasn't comfortable with experiencing new things yet. I was too busy just wallowing in the grief. And that's the thing, is once I stopped, it was very easy to overcome a lot of the things that I told myself I was smoking for. You know, a lot of trauma in my life, and I really just sort of became stagnant in the hopes that things would just get better by themselves. And that's part of the comfortability that I was talking about, where it takes you away from the things that you're suffering from, and it connects you to this other thing. It's, for some people, it's a higher vibration than what they're at, and for others it's lower. But if you're doing it all day, every day, you're going to be trapped at this vibration. You may feel like you're not going anywhere in life. And it sucks because this very much gives you relaxation. You may work and be like, I just want to go home and smoke so I can forget about this hard day at work. And then, yeah, you start stagnating. You don't care to progress. Another thing is, heard this from Dr. Drew. Apparently, something like 20 to 25% of people that have a psychotic break through marijuana are stuck like that for almost their lifetime, like a longer period than, say, psychotic breaks from other drugs, which are way harder on the system. There's something about the wiring it does to the brain where it opens you up and makes you susceptible to things. It's very chaotic. Let me look at my notes real quick. Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure on this, but I slightly believe that depending on who you buy it from will change the vibration of what you're actually smoking. Once again, this is a theory. I cannot confirm nor deny. It's just something to think about. Definitely dispensaries is a bit sketchy. Like, yeah, in my state it is legal recreationally, but I don't know, they gotta be spraying it with something. There's chemicals in it now. The best way to smoke is probably if you're growing it yourself. It's this is probably a topic I'm going to come back to many times and revisit, because sort of drawing a blank. This is like my 4th attempt at making this video and just been like disrupted in the middle of it. It's kind of late at this point, nearly midnight. But nonetheless, the spiritual effects of marijuana. For me, I was a lot more, I want to say, spiritually in tune. I was more apt to getting visions, more apt to feeling like I was tapping into the future, more empathic, just able to feel what other people are feeling, because it very much takes you away from the self. This is something that I very much miss, which is a hard thing to realize, because I know part of my purpose on this earth is to be a healer, but I can't just go back to marijuana because I am not comfortable with where I am right now. And I don't know when I will be. And when I am comfortable, I'm probably not going to want to smoke anyways. For those that do smoke now and they feel that they are powerless to this and that they cannot quit, this is an addiction, and I hope you find your way out of it. For those of you that can quit at any time, you're probably a lot better off not doing so and just continuing to be as great of a person as you can without it. This is no attempt to get anyone to quit, because if you're not ready, then you're not ready. You have to truly want it, and it's a hard way to get there with the states that it puts you in. Like I said, it makes you comfortable. It makes it okay for another day, for another minute, another hour. And this is something that us as humans and the current state of the world are seeking, because it is very chaotic, both right now and honestly throughout time. It's something we really take granted of is the state of the world today compared to the past. Things have always been chaotic. Things have always been hard. But the amount of distractions that we have today are far greater. This pen just ran out. Yes, the distractions of today are much greater. So that need and that want of escape is that much stronger as well. And that's something that weed can do for you. It helps you get away from things you would normally think about that would really help you elevate to a greater position in your life. But there's uncomfortability in facing these thoughts and the actions that are followed up with these thoughts. When I say I miss the visions that I'd have, it's very true. For a while I did feel like I was lacking as a spiritual person, because even now it's not as easy to tap into the outside, the exterior. And it would even, now that I realize it, it would give me energy to some extent. Okay. So you can smoke it with the intention of achieving something. And this is a very powerful thing, because it's putting energy into the weed to then be multiplied inside your body. And most of the times when I would do this, having an intention before it, it'd make it a lot more chaotic and a lot more scary, because it was putting me in a position to where I either have to work through these thoughts that I don't want to have while being high and having it be more intense, or having it push me so hard to the point where I'm uncomfortable with smoking and forced to quit to face these things. So the more that you put like intention into it, the more that you actually get the purpose out of it. And there is a reason why you smoke, and whatever that is probably personal. But like I said, having the intention, it's sort of like helping you check off the list faster. It's very, I don't know, destructive to the ego. And there are things that we get stuck up on as people. This is undeniable. Another thing that was a lot easier for me, like I said, it was definitely the empathy, but being able to heal others was a lot easier. It'd give me the energy and the purpose to, or the feeling of purpose to help me attain more efficiency in my healings. But it also distanced me from the ego and the things I may be feeling to help others heal the wounds that they carry. Once again, that's another thing I miss. It was just a different, like I said, a different timeline. It wasn't what was meant for my body, and it wasn't what was meant for my higher purpose. It separated me from the two and put me in the middle. Doesn't help the past, doesn't help the future, but it gives you a different perspective of, just different perspective of these things. And you really do have to spend that time away from it to unpack what you really experience. Had to pause to run to the bathroom real quick. One thing I was thinking about was, since it does put you away from the ego and brings you to another place, it almost leads you to be less accountable, because those ideas that you give yourself, the things that you say you're going to do, are followed up with the prerequisite of being high before these things are done. Because when you make these promises, when you have these ideas, under the influence, when you do return back to who you're truly meant to be, the sober mind, you realize that these ideas weren't fully realized. You realize that these ideas aren't fully concrete within your actual self. It was a comfortable thing you were able to say while being high, but then realizing you don't want to without that distraction, without that cushion. which can lead you to do things you're not meant to do, can lead you away from things that you are meant to do, because you sometimes may get caught up saying, well, I'm not high and I won't do this till I am. And there can be some discipline in there to where you actually start to do these actions, but then it has to be while you are high, which is a little conflicting, but alright. So there's like a bit of healing and lessons to be learned in actually accomplishing things that aren't from your clearest of thoughts. Like, we may have done things that we never would have done with the sober mind, and these things actually end up being positive. So that can be a trade-off, I suppose. Personally, I can't think of any for myself, so I'd love to say that and for that to be true, but personally for me, that's never what the case was. It's crazy how much more accountable I am, both to the things I say and willing to say that I said them, and accountable in the fact that I say I'm going to do something and then I actually do it. A lot of things really feel like just ideas when you are high, even when you're doing them. Like, for me now, I don't even know how to really reward myself in the sober mind. Like, that's still a very big struggle for me. Yes, this goes back farther than the weed, but for a while the weed was the reward, whether that was conscious or not. So now when I'm proud of myself for doing something, which I've done many great things since becoming sober, even though I may have accomplished these things, I don't feel reward. And that's very rough, but I'm a lot more comfortable with the uneasiness of that. Before, it was very helpless feeling and really sad to think about, to be honest. Sort of leads me into another thought, is you start to associate certain emotions with being high, and the emotions being behind maybe different actions while you are high. Like, probably for the first 2 months of being sober, I can't really recall any emotions. That was the roughest part, to be honest, because that was the longest I had ever gone previously without smoking again, was 2 months. I feel like that was the testing point to be like, okay, are you really comfortable, or do you want to come back and see what being high is like again? And I truly feel like I've experienced everything I'm supposed to through marijuana, which is an uneasy thing. It's only been 6 months of learning who I am without this, you know? And that 5 years of almost every day being high, it was all I knew. So it's very uneasy knowing what the future is like. There's always that comfortability of, I could smoke again and maybe things might be better for a little while. But I don't know. I've just trained myself to realize it's not worth it. I know that I'm usually the one that rewatches these videos the most, but there's definitely some substance to what I'm saying. You know, it's not just a message for myself in the future. Oh. This is a crystal, by the way. Desert Rose Selenite. In case you were wondering what's off the screen right there. I don't know. Random little thing. It's weird. There's like a thought I have in mind of even connections with friends weren't real, which maybe to them it was, but for me, since I was just high the whole time, like I said, everything is just ideas, you know? I've become a lot more comfortable with the unknown and the uncertainty. And since I was distracted for so long with the idea of letting things go, and not necessarily letting them go in terms of releasing it, but letting them prolong themselves through comfortability, a lot of my friendships even stagnated because I wasn't really who I was supposed to be. Something I want to really help you exercise if you do continue to keep smoking is to give the intention beforehand. And what I mean by that is, okay, you may have the pipe in your hand, the joint, whatever you are smoking out of. I want you to think what you want to gain from that, or what your purpose is for smoking that weed in the moment. And then to keep track of what you actually do when you smoke it. This is how you can find out if you're just smoking out of habit, even though you may tell yourself it's for other things. And if you're just straight up lying to yourself about what it gives you. I remember one of the worst experiences I had with weed was telling myself, okay, I'm going to heal myself through Reiki during this period of being high, and I want to get the energy from this weed to do this. And that was like the first true anxiety attack I had. I remember texting a friend, calling him, and being like, just freaked out for a whole 40 minutes, even though he was there talking to me and I had said, I'm going to heal my traumas. I couldn't even think straight, to the point where I can't even tell you what I was thinking then. But that's like a wake-up call. One that I didn't even realize, in terms of using that to actually get better. You know, after telling myself, okay, I'm going to heal, I'm going to be calm after this. I want to be calm through this period of time. That's something that the ego wanted, which was separate from the vibration that the weed puts you in. It's very interesting what it gives you, because it sort of is person to person. Some people may be vibrating higher than the weed that they're smoking, and then they truly don't experience anything greater, because they just, I don't know, the pressure of being this great person really can be that great, to the point where you need something to bring you down, which at this point I can't imagine. I know I'm above that, but I don't see pleasure in lowering my vibration just to be more comfortable for a little bit. It truly doesn't make sense, especially with the personality I have, becoming codependent on things that bring me comfort, which is an addictive personality. And for the opposite of people who have a lower vibration of this comfortability, that's where the real trap is, because you don't even learn to achieve this state naturally. You become very dependent on becoming comfortable because you are so afraid, which is a lower vibration. Is the fear is below acceptance. So it can be very trapping when you're like, well, it helps me. Clearly, I mean, I can't go 3 hours without an anxiety attack without it. So that's why I escape my thoughts and I consume it. It's really just kind of sad to see how that can be a coping mechanism. Like I said, this is all person to person. But for me personally, when I really was feeling that bad and I chose to smoke instead of deal with it, I really don't even know how much I could have grown if I just took chances. A lot of opportunities I missed because of the pursuit of ignoring myself. Because it really does feel greater than yourself when you do connect to this thing that's outside of you. Once again, especially if you feel like you are lower than what this may give you. I say that it puts you in the vibration of acceptance, but I don't think there's true acceptance without the conscious effort of working through this with the sober mind. Because it is a crutch to bring you to these realizations of, these are things I need to work on. These are things that are important to me. But then, if you don't integrate that into your day-to-day life or day-to-day thoughts, then there's no real improvement. I don't know. Like I said, this is probably going to be a 2-part video, maybe even a series of some sorts where I come back and revisit this topic as many times as I feel I've hammered it home. One of the main things I can preach, though, is just the importance of giving yourself the chance to be within a sober mind if you haven't for a prolonged period. And I mean, genuinely give yourself 2 months, 3 months. This is a goal that a friend gave me. She said, just do 2 months. See what 2 months does for you. See what you can accomplish. And like I stated, within those first 2 months, I had no emotion. It was so tempting to go back just because I knew that I'd have emotions when I smoked again. But I stuck it out, and 2 months after that is when progress was really made. Driver's license, job, car, and that's like when that progress started. All that was within the last 2 months, 3 months that I actually achieved all these things. So it really took me like 3 months to actually progress. Like I said, I wish I could go back and talk about the things I'm talking about now with the actual like high going on then, just so it feels a little bit more genuine of this was what was actually going on. But that is in the past. I cannot go back and see what those emotions felt like under these states because yeah, I'm not going back. I just remember having visions that were just there without asking. Like unexplainable, just magical looking things all the time. And as cool as it was then, it's still cool now to think about. I can still remember some of these things and see some of these things and sense being in the sober mind, it's definitely not like that. It's a state of being I gotta put myself into. I gotta give myself time of day just to even get close to the openness that I had to supernatural things, even though that's probably a different word with a different meaning that you may have, but it was greater than what I was naturally capable of. Which means that I can still achieve these things, but like I said, it has to be through actual conscious effort and, yeah, just the willingness to get through the periods that it's not so great. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of it for this one. I don't even remember what I really got into in this one. Kind of feels all over the place. So that's why there will be another part to this at some point. But once again, give yourself some time away from it, especially if you feel like you can't. Like, if it feels that important to keep smoking, that means that it's taken a hold of you and that you have been ignoring your own personal needs for too long. It's not very honorable to think of the exterior all the time if you don't work on yourself and actually like upgrade your lifestyle just because that this drug may be telling you something else. Ooh. So yeah, this is the Dunster. Glad that you guys watched this one. Give me some feedback if you made it this far about maybe some things you may want to hear me speak about, or things that you agreed with or didn't agree with within this video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure you like, subscribe, and keep upgrading yourself, consciously or not. Thank you.